We're having social media morning here at the Idea Center. So to continue on that journey, I'm thrilled to welcome super nice guy from Wichita, Kansas, Phil Mershon, who's the Director of Experience for Social Media Examiner, author of a great new book you're going to want to find out about called Unforgettable, The Art and Science of Creating Memorable Experiences. And to pull, I would imagine, from that book, this session, How to Create Memorable Customer Experiences, Lessons from the Events World. Please help me welcome Phil Mershon.
What's going on, NAM? Oh, that's a little loud, isn't it? All right, it's great to be with you guys here today. I'm excited to share some stuff. I do work for Social Media Examiner, but I'm not going to talk about social media because you just had a couple of great sessions. Instead, we're going to talk about how to create great customer experiences and some things I've learned from producing a large event as well as doing events for pretty much my entire life. Now, before I get going, I need to introduce you to somebody. His name in Swahili is Kumbu because Kumbu means to remember. But his name in English is Rembrandt because he's also an artist and he loved to copy Rembrandt. Now, the reason you need to know about him are two reasons. One is he's the elephant in the room and he can say things that I can't and you can't. But the more important reason is he shows up, I don't know, a few times in this presentation. And if you count how many times he shows up, then I'm going to give the person who gets the right number this copy of this book, which is the new book that I just released. And so what you're going to do at the end of the presentation, they've got cards over on the desk. You'll go over, write your name, write your email, and how many times, and then I will follow up with you and get you a copy of the book. Sound good? All right, I have a very important question. It's almost lunchtime. It's dangerous to talk about food, but it's the elephant in the room. We're thinking about food. How many of you like licorice? Raise your hand. Do you like licorice? Only a few of you. All right, here's the real question. How many of you like black licorice? Anyone? Yeah, a couple of you. The rest of you like red? I like both, but there's a story with this. When I was 7 years old, I attended the very first Yamaha music school in Wichita, Kansas. It was hosted by Starkey Music. And I attended that class all year long, and on the last day, Jim Starkey, the owner, who is this small, spry, leprechaun-type man with a twinkle in his eye, he took us into the music store, and he said, "Kids, what instrument do you want to play?" And I'm like, "I don't know." So he looks at me and says, "Phil, do you hear that?" And I said, "Yeah. Do you know what that is?" "No, what is it?" "It's a licorice stick." "Well, what is a licorice stick?" "It's a clarinet." I was hooked. I have to play the licorice stick. That was Pete Fountain that I was listening. Someday I want to sound like Pete Fountain. Now, what's the point of that story? There's a business point for why I tell that story, and that is I now own all of these exact instruments. Some of them you can tell that I took pictures of them and they don't look very good, plus several keyboards, plus an EWI, plus a lot more. And you might be thinking, wow, that's kind of cool. Are you trying to impress us? No. What's the ROI of that moment? That moment when he stopped me and says, "What do you want to play?" and he inspired me, I figured it's at least $125,000 that my parents and I spent on instruments and music lessons and going to music school, etc. And now I produce a large event. I've spent millions of dollars through my company on production equipment. All started with one customer experience. He could have looked at someone else, and that kid might or might not have stood out and stuck with it. I'm going to talk more about that. The customer experiences that you're having in your stores through your business, you don't know the ripple effect of what's going to happen and the lifetime value of that moment. So Social Media Marketing World is a large conference. We've had as many as 5,000 people every year in San Diego for the last 10 years. We bring marketers like the two ladies who are right before me. I don't think either of them have been there, but people like them are coming to speak and learn about social media every single year. And I've learned a few things. And so I want to share a few of those lessons with you. And I like to do it in metaphors because stories and metaphors are far more powerful than just giving you a bunch of stats and figures. So these are the four metaphors we're going to look at. It's like a great restaurant. It's like the military. It's like baking bread and like a merry-go-round. So let's dig in. Restaurants are pretty much all the same in one respect. If you're going to a sit-down restaurant, You arrive, someone greets you at the door, they seat you at a table, they bring you a menu, they bring you drinks, someone takes your order, they bring you food, they ask if you want dessert, yes or no, bring you a bill, you pay, and you leave. Those experiences are common between almost every sit-down restaurant in America. The world, there's some other protocols that are involved, but great restaurants are different in a few respects. How many of you agree that great restaurants have good food? Do you care about the chef if you're going to a barbecue restaurant? Maybe, maybe not. Do you care about the chef if you're going to the local pub? Doubtful. What about the ambiance? If you're going to a pub, you're expecting it to be rowdy. You're going to a sports bar, you're hoping people are going to cheer because you don't want to cheer for your team alone. But if you're going to take your significant other out for a romantic dinner, you care about the ambiance. What about the location? Is it in a hip part of town? Is it in a sketchy part of town? Is it sitting on top of a cliff overlooking the ocean? All those have an effect on, is this a great restaurant or not? Do they have live music? What kind of music? Is it the right kind of music? Is it a country band and you were expecting romantic music? And then finally, the service. And I would say service is the trump card. Great service can trump all these other things being mediocre, and terrible service will also undermine all these other things going really well. And that's the first lesson I've learned. You have to focus on service. And first impressions make a huge difference. If someone walks into your event and they have a great experience in those first few moments, and I've learned if there's 5 significant encounters that are positive, that will set a tone for the entire experience that you're creating for them. And it will overcome some of the negative things that can happen, whereas if it's a negative first experience, it's hard to overcome that. Secondly, when people come to events, you probably have experienced this. How many of you were worn out when you got here to NAMM? You're tired from travel. Stuff's going on at the office. It's hard to leave it. You're actually still working right now as you're sitting here listening to me. You can't escape it. Well, a smile, and especially a number of people smiling at you, can actually turn around your experience. And it's a simple thing, but it's a profound thing. The right staff. I've hired people for roles at my event who are in the wrong role, or they just don't belong on staff because they don't have good customer service skills. They don't know how to solve problems. They look like they are bored and don't belong. And finally, it's the attention to detail. So great restaurants, like great events, pay attention to specific details along the way. I went to Eddie V's one time. How many of you have been to Eddie V's? And I went to Eddie V's, and I went to the front desk, and I didn't know where the bathroom was, so I said, hey, where's the bathroom? They didn't just tell me, they showed me the way. They walked me through the restaurant and navigated. They paid attention to the detail because they knew it would be confusing. Great service pays attention, and they know where problems might occur, and they go the extra mile. Andy Stanley is a pastor. He's also a leadership coach, and he has this principle, do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. Last month, we did our 10th annual conference, and we had a lady there that it seemed like everything went wrong for her. First of all, she could not get access to the app. Then she was trying to log into our training system, and that didn't work. Finally, she shows up at the party. She's really looking forward to it. She doesn't have her badge, and my staff turned her away. She is livid. She's sharing about it online on social media, and I see this happening. And I see all of the people online getting on her. They said, hey, they told you should have a badge. Well, there was a place we forgot to tell her. So I went out of my way, and I said, hey, how can I make your day better? Is there something I can do? Can I give you a free lunch? Can I give you a coffee? She's like, no, no, no. Finally, she says, but you could do this. And she sends me her laundry list of all the people she wants to meet. I'm like, okay, let me see what I can do. There were 6 people, but one of them was she wanted to meet an AI specialist, someone who had been using artificial intelligence. So I introduced her to my friend Molly. Molly's dad is here at NAMM right now. Molly would be here, but she's got some things going on. And Molly met with this lady, and they became friends, and then they went to a concert together here in the LA area. Now this lady is friends. She loves the brand. Her experience has been turned around. Now, how many of you think I could do that for 2,000 people? Yeah, that would be totally impossible. But if I do it for one, and my staff does it for one, and they have this mentality, you know what, when I encounter a problem, I'm going to solve it. I'm going to go the extra mile, and I'm empowered to go do that. That changes the experience that people have with our event. The same thing can happen in a music business. Do you agree first impressions matter? Yes, nodding your heads. I went into a music store not very long ago, and when I walked in, it felt like chaos. There were instruments piled everywhere. I couldn't even find my way to the reed station because I couldn't see what was going on. It's like, man, this is how you run your music store. Well, I found out later he was getting ready to ship out all these instruments to the local schools, and he was getting them all prepped, and he didn't have anywhere else to put them. So I was like a little forgiving. But if that's your only impression, I might not go back to that store. Your first impressions matter. You never know when you're making a first impression, especially in the music business. And then how about the way that you're laying the space out? Are you being intentional about your use of color and space and even aromas? I've got a fun story about aromas. This is a bad one. I spent 7 months in Kenya when I was in college. And for 3 of those months, I lived on a sugar plantation. And next to us was a refinery. And in the process of refining sugar, they use sulfur. Does anyone know what sulfur smells like? Rotten eggs. It's awful. So some days the wind would blow just wrong, and it would waft into our house, and I would get sick to my stomach because of that smell. And then the people I was living with would bring me bananas. So now when I smell rotten eggs, I think of bad bananas, and I start to get sick without even feeling sick. It can happen instantaneously. That's how powerful aroma is, and you can use it the opposite in really good ways. People might smell coffee and have a memory of something, or a specific aroma will remind them of a person or a place. Are you thinking about the use of aroma in space in designing your facility? Again, smiles. Was it Love Boat or Fantasy Island? Smiles, everyone. Smiles, everyone. I'm going to date myself. Here's the key. I've been to enough music stores across the country. I've lived in 10 different states, and I've been to a lot of music stores. And sometimes the people there, you can tell they love music, but they don't actually love people. Have you ever been to one of those places? Yeah, a couple of you have. So when you're hiring people, and if they're customer-facing, make sure that their face reflects their love and that they've got that attention to people. You want to find as many Jim Starkeys as you can, the guy who sold me on becoming a clarinetist, who looks at someone and gets them excited. Now, I don't think he knew that I would become a lifelong clarinetist and then saxophonist, but he got me excited because he was excited and he was enamored by the mystery of music. And obviously, he's the owner, but if you can find people like that, you'll be well served. All right, second, yes, there's an elephant. Rembrandt just showed up. He can't really fly, but, you know, he's the elephant in the sky. So when you're in the military, you have to know who your enemies are so you can develop your strategies. First thing you have to know, though, is how do you create a memorable experience in the first place? These are some of the ways. And the very first thing that I'd like to introduce you to is what I've developed called the memory formula. Do you guys remember your college algebra? So college algebra, we learned the f of x formula. F of x, and x in this case is your...
Hey, Phil.
Yeah?
Phil.
Who's that?
Hey, Phil.
What's going on?
Phil, are you really going to do
Well,
this?
of course, this is great stuff.
Hey, dude, this is boring.
Delete that last slide. It is completely bogus. There's nothing on that last slide that has any meaning whatsoever. I combined nonsensical things together. We've all sat in sessions and gone to events where something like that last slide happens, where a bunch of things are thrown on a screen and it feels like you're reading Greek or Latin or some foreign language. And at events, it happens. There are boring moments. So I looked at who are the enemies of our great event and what are the things that I have to overcome to create a great event. And boredom or dullness is number one. So think about dried out bread. The only use for dried bread is croutons, but when it's ultra dried out, all it does is suck the moisture out of your mouth and it tastes terrible and you're looking for the next drink. Resistance. So think about the person, and I see you back there, the person who's sitting there with their arms crossed and they're saying, okay, teach me something. Show me that I should stick around, right? Then there's isolation. It's the person who's come to your event and they are wondering, do I belong here? Is there anybody else like me? I felt like that the very first time I came to NAMM. First time I came to NAMM, the only person I knew was Zach Phillips, who had hired me. I don't know if Zach's back there watching me. Yeah, there he is. He was the only person I knew. I didn't know anybody else at this event, and he's busy because he's running NAMM University. So I wandered around for hours until I finally found someone that I knew their name. Once I did, then I started to meet other people, and it was great. But until that moment, it was an awful experience, especially for me as an introvert. Exhaustion. So you can go to an event like this where there's stuff going on from morning till night, and you're feeling overwhelmed because there's way too many things that you can do. You wish you could do them all at once. And then finally, there's the squirrel factor. You're distracted by social media. You're distracted by all the people that are around you, all the things that are going on. You're not sure quite where to focus. Now let's go back to this idea of boredom. All of you have probably been to other events. Let's don't talk about NAMM right now because Zach's here. But what are some things that make an event boring? And I do want some audience participation here. Tell me a couple things. What makes an event boring? Go ahead, shout it out. Lack of interaction. What else? Lack of food. Oh, movement. Lack of movement. Yeah, if you just sit all day, yeah, that can be very boring. What else? Give me a couple more. Bad speakers. Not these kind of speakers, but the people on stage. Yeah, what else? Give me one more. No music. We're at a conference. If there was no music at a NAMM conference, that'd be really strange, wouldn't it? So I asked my friends online, the ultimate source of all knowledge, what they thought makes events boring, and these are their top 6. Standing in line for the bathroom or coffee, bad food, weak or no coffee, speakers who are reading from their slides. Oh, oops. Registration. Do you guys ever experience this? You're waiting in line to get checked in, you get your badge, and you get on the other side of registration, then you're like, oh, shoot, now what? You ever felt like that? Anyone else? Is it just me? A couple of you can relate to that. And then, sorry, AV guys, but sometimes you go to a conference, and as soon as the session's over, the AV guys decide they want to play some really loud 80s heavy rock music and drive you out of that room so they can get ready for the next session. It washes away every thought that you've ever had during that last 30 minutes, and you feel like you're a cow being moved from place to place. Now, all these things are not only boring, but they make an event forgettable. How many of you guys have middle school age kids? Anyone or ever had them? So when you ask them, how was school today? Like, nothing really happened. It was boring, nothing inspiring. Like, the answers are pretty nonsensical. They don't give you any meaning, and that is like the ultimate penalty for a bad event. You go back home after this conference and tell your boss that nothing really significant happened here. Are they going to send you next year? Will they? No. I'm not going to send somebody to a conference if they didn't get anything out of it that we can use in the business. That is what we're trying to avoid. So here are my solutions, the 5 solutions, and I go into way more detail in the book about it. And by the way, all of you can get a free download of the book. If you stick around till the end, you'll get the details, and Zach's going to even send out details later on. You can get a free ebook no matter what happens because you're part of NAMM. Dullness is solved by making something transformative. So think about standing in line. Standing in line is truly a boring experience if it's a long line and you're there for 15, 20 minutes. But what if you had a jester who was coming into the line and he was doing some comedy with the audience? Resistance. How do you take that person who's got their arms crossed and help them come to a place of openness and expectancy? You might introduce them to somebody. You might figure out what the problem is, what their hesitancy is all about, and open them up to new possibilities. The person who's feeling isolated, the way I like to solve that is I hire people to come in who are great super connectors. They like to connect people. They meet someone and say, you know what, Zach? You need to meet Michael, who just left the room. Oh, he's back there. You guys need to meet each other because you both love this particular band, and I think you guys would have a great conversation. And so all of a sudden, the person who's feeling isolated realizes, oh, I'm not the only one who likes, 80s psychedelic funk jazz. I don't know, I'm just making that up. That probably does exist. Fourth, the exhaustion. How do you go from exhaustion to stimulating? Sometimes it's because things are just confusing. So great communication can help to relieve that sense of overwhelm. Having space where people feel like, you know what, I don't have to do it all. Offer the recordings. You guys are doing this here at NAMM. If you're missing a session that you really wanted to see, you have a month that you can go watch it later. That's a great benefit. Now you're not feeling quite so much pressure to be all places at once. Then finally, the person who's feeling distracted, I want to try to eliminate as many of those distractions as I possibly can so that they can focus on the things that they want to focus on and not worry. The greatest praise I've received is I had a speaker one time come to the conference, and she wrote on social media after the conference, she said, "Sorry for being missing in action. I was at a conference in real life, IRL, and I stayed off of social media at a social media conference." That's like the highest level of praise, that she didn't even go on social media because she wanted to be with the people. We made that possible. All right, so this is a trick question, maybe. What makes music boring? Give me a couple things that might make music boring for, let's say, for students. Is that the melody? It could be a boring melody, yeah? What else? Give me a couple more things. Say that again? A lack of diversity. Okay. One more thing. Lack of rhythm. Yeah, just want simplistic rhythms maybe. A couple things I thought about as I think about dried out. Dull might be, I've got to play way too many scales, and those long tones, they're just kind of boring. I don't really like to play those. I'm thinking as when I was a kid, oh, it's not cool to be a musician. So what do I do about that? So I'm going to solve these as I go. Scales are the entryway into improvisation. So if I can show someone how those scales actually work out and help you to do really cool things, then all of a sudden your imagination is lit. If you can introduce someone who says music's not cool to someone who is cool, who's made it in music, you're at music school, you're at a school or whatever, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I didn't know that was possible. Isolation. I always wanted to be outside playing basketball with my friends instead of practicing inside. So it helped me when I started finding other people who enjoyed making the same kind of music, and now I had a community. Exhaustion. Practicing is hard work, but what if I can see the payoff for that hard work? I remember I was taking piano lessons, and I was learning C.P.E. Bach's Solfeggetto. Anyone learn that song in your piano days? No one. Oh, interesting. Well, for me, it was a hard song. And I was sitting in a music lab of people trying to become proficient in piano at college. And every week I'd go in for the lesson, and they'd hear me. And I was clunking note after note and playing it very slow, and it wasn't fun. But by the end of the semester, I had mastered the song. They literally stood up and applauded me. I get chilled thinking about it now. And it inspired me to want to keep getting better. You see the payoff for the hard work. The same thing can be true for distraction. Kids today have access to so many things. We all do that we can use, not just GarageBand, but all these different patches and ideas that make it seem like, well, I don't need to learn to play piano. Well, maybe we need to find out ways to take them to the woodshed like Charlie Parker had to do and learn the benefit of hard work and what's possible when we have worked hard. All right, I'm going to keep going because I only have like 5 minutes. Wow. This is going fast. So baking bread has 4 main ingredients: flour, water, salt, and yeast. And when you mix these things together, you can create all different kinds of bread depending on what the outcome is. Do you want sandwich bread for PB&J? Do you want a sub-sandwich bread? Or are you looking for artisanal bread? Once you know that, then you look at all the different factors that affect how the bread comes out. Things like, how long do you let the yeast rise? What kind of oven do you use? How much humidity in the oven? What kind of ingredients? What process? How much skill do I need to have? The same thing is true for events. You have to know the basic ingredients, which content is like the education. Connections, that's the networking. Culture, that is, what does this event feel like? Is this an event where it's easy to talk to people? Is this an event where everyone's out to impress one another? The crew, do we have the right people in the right roles on the team, and are they making this feel like the environment that we want? And then the conditions is the building, the part of the world or city that you're in, and then the way that you design that space for the experience that you're trying to create. So once you understand what experience you're trying to create, it's the same question, and then you understand what is it that the customer is looking for. All those things factor into the type of event. Same thing is true Oh, let me go back. If I go backwards, can I go back? I want to tell you a quick story. This is worth telling, even if I don't get to anything else. Thank you. Oops. Sorry. I think I did it. I'll stop. Go back. Okay. That's too far, but I'll get to it. Thank you. All right, so 2016, we were moving from the Manchester Grand Hyatt in San Diego, and we were moving into the convention center where we would be using multiple hotels. And we knew we had a problem. The problem was this. People might leave the convention center, go back to their hotel, and never return. And we knew that would be negative for our speakers, our sponsors, and the overall experience. And we asked ourselves, well, why? Why would they leave? And there's at least a couple reasons. One, they might want to eat. We could have food. 2, they might want to go back to their room to work. Well, we created a workspace. 3, they might go back because they wanted to take a nap. So we created a quiet zone where they could take a nap. But 4th, there's a lot of networking that goes on at a marketing conference. And people might feel a little bit bashful about talking to people if they've been eating and drinking all day. And so we said they might want their toothbrush, and they probably didn't bring it with them. So we put toothbrushes and toothpaste in every single bathroom in the building, and people noticed. It started showing up on Jay Baer's podcast and other places where people were talking about it. But we had a customer who said, wow, if you guys have paid attention to that detail, you've thought of everything. I'm coming back. And here's the ROI. We spent $3 or less on a toothbrush and toothpaste, and we made at least $15,000 for that one because she kept coming back multiple years. She invited her friends to come back. It's probably a lot more than that. That's what I can track. And there's multiple people. Little detail, we solved a problem that we knew could affect the event overall. I imagine you can think about your business and think of small little things that others might miss but would have a detrimental effect on your business. All right, we are almost out of time, so we're going to... You need to think about your customers. Who are they? What are their experiences? What are their expectations? This quote is one that I will leave with you. Chip and Dan Heath wrote a book called The Power of Moments. They are professors at Stanford, and they said, not all moments are created equally. I translate that, not all moments are remembered equally. And here's where they got that. They were studying how people behave at Disney, and they were measuring their experience level and satisfaction at different points in the day after they arrived at the park, when they were standing in line for a ride, when they were buying the very expensive hamburger and Coke, when they were taking care of their kids who were crying, when they were being surprised by the princess who showed up at lunch, when they were watching the parade go by, and when they watched the fireworks. And they tabulated the scores of all those, and they realized, you know what? If people have some really great key moments, peak moments in the event, it'll wash away most of the effect of those detrimental moments, which are inevitable at an event and are inevitable at in any kind of music experience. You can't have constant highs, so you lean into those moments and make those extra good, and then you think about what could go wrong and how do we solve those moments. All right, let me get to the end here. I wish I could talk about the merry-go-round, but that's all right. It's in the book. I want to get to this because you'll want to take a picture of this. And unfortunately, because I'm flying through, your numbers are going to be off in terms of counting how many remembrance. So Social Media Marketing World, held every year in San Diego. Next year it's in February. This is the slide. So take a picture of this or come see me afterwards. I've got cards with this very same information printed out, and I would love for you to come over there if you were playing the Remembrance game. Write down how many times he showed up that you saw and put your email on there, and I will follow up with the winner. Everyone who is a NAM member or who is here, you can go to that site, philmershon.com/NAM, and get a free copy of the ebook. That's something that my publisher is doing just for NAM, so that's a benefit to you. Everyone else has to pay $10, but not you. You can get it for free. And if you want to follow up with me, you can also see all the places to follow up with me there. So thank you guys very much. Appreciate you being such a great audience, and look forward to answering any questions that you have over there.
Thanks to Phil Marchand.